Attention please. This upload is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. GPITRAL. Definitely a must-see. Follow us.
The town covered in snow.
Like Lori, other folks in the area had encounters they couldn't explain.
Families sledding.
One of the scariest encounters near Bray Road happened when a group of children were sledding, and they were on their way home. It was just about twilight.
The wolfman is in the bushes.
And they saw what they thought was a dog lapping water from a partly thawed pond. And they went over to pet it.
That's no dog.
The wolfman looks up. The kids run.
They turned around and ran, and it began to chase them. But as usual, it broke off the chase. And one of those children was a friend of my son's. And he said, "Mom, I know him, and he's not making that up. He's still really scared."
When it was clear that Lori and Dreezy's encounter wasn't the only one, Lori's mom encouraged her to go public about the event.
I thought it was time that everyone should know what was going on.
As Lori would learn, the local animal control office already had a file. They started compiling reports when they found a dozen or so animals suspiciously dead and dismembered.
It was crazy. A werewolf file? I mean, I didn't think anyone ever heard of this, so somebody must have said something in the past to have a werewolf file.
A bungalow next to a paddock.
Linda Godfrey was a rookie reporter when the stories began to circulate.
Probably just a few months into my job, and I started hearing local rumors that people around Elkhorn were seeing what they were calling a werewolf out on Bray Road, and I was extremely skeptical. I know I laughed, and when I started just kind of asking around, I found out that yes, people actually were talking about it, and at that point I had to follow up on it.
One of her first interviews was with Lori and Dreezy.
I thought that Lori's story was very, very credible. She was a young single mom at the time. She was just coming home from work, and besides, she was obviously still terrified at the thought of it.
I felt vindicated. I wasn't the only one that saw it, and other people became brave enough to share their story just like I did.
People all over started saying, "We have this creature here." One person saw it killing its dog. A couple of ladies saw a 6-foot-tall upright canine with their cat in its mouth.
It really started to snowball. It became something that was in the back of people's minds all the time.
The story went viral, and the creature was dubbed the Beast of Bray Road.
It was a big story. People were petrified. When you hear stories like that, that's when you start to think, this could be real, this could happen to me.
I believe it's not the only one out there. I believe there's a lot of them. It's not just here, it's all over.
In fact, after the spate of sightings around Bray Road, people throughout Wisconsin started claiming Wolfman encounters. 60 miles northeast of Elkhorn, the small town of Hubertus, Wisconsin, is another community surrounded by hills and forest. The perfect landscape for a creature to hide. In 2006, local sanitation worker Steve Kruger had a run-in with the Wolfman beast that made him question everything he ever thought about the supernatural.
I never believed in monsters until I saw that creature at the back end of my truck. I thought, what the hell is that?
Monsters and mysteries.
Wisconsin is Dairyland. For a state with over 1 million milking cows, There's no love for a predator like the wolf.
Wolves eating a calf.
Since the 1800s, it's been open warfare. By the 1960s, the wolf was officially exterminated from Wisconsin. Some wonder if a few managed to live on and not only survive, but transform. Like insects or rodents that defy extermination, only to come back stronger.
It might be some kind of natural wolf-wolf hybrid that has adapted to run or walk on its hind legs when it suits its purposes for some reason.
Whatever the cause, by the 1980s, Wisconsin was in the midst of a flurry of reports about a bizarre wolfman beast.
Clouds across a full moon. A folder marked werewolf reports.
That put Steve Kruger on the front lines of the hunting zone. After college, he got a job working sanitation, clearing Wisconsin roads of deer and roadkill.
I spent a lot of time in the woods and seen a lot of crazy things. This beats all of it by a long shot.
Reenactment of Steve driving at night.
Back in 2006, I was contracted to pick up the dead deer carcasses along the roadways throughout the state. There's no precipitation. It was just a really nice, cool evening. I was driving and I came across a small deer carcass. It was a small 80-pound doe, so I threw down the tailgate, picked up the deer and tossed it into the back on top of the ATV ramp. And I hopped back into my cab, got the clipboard out and started filling out the paperwork.
The wolfman snarls, clawed feet on grass.
What had been a quiet night was about to receive a jolt.
The wolfman's silhouette behind the truck.
At first, when the truck shook, I thought it was the wind. So I ignored it the first time, started filling out the paperwork again.
The truck is rocked.
When the truck rocked again, it couldn't be ignored.
And really felt like something heavy got into the back end of the truck.
He shines his torch out of the back of the cab onto the face of the wolfman.
And that's where I saw the creature. The whole entire creature was about 7 feet tall, looked like basically a large wolf head on top of a bear's body. This was not a bear.
Then, it made a move toward the front of the truck.
Scared the dickens out of me. I became panicked and I realized I just needed to get out of there. It came down to a choice of fight or flight, and I chose the flight. My truck was still running, so all I had to do was throw it in the drive and hit the gas.
It snarls as he drives off.
As I did pull away, I heard a metal clank hit the road.
He didn't wait to see what it was. He didn't dare look back.
The full moon. He gets out of his truck.
I got to the next crossroad as fast as I could, which was several miles down the road, and I pulled over.
Both the deer and his heavy metal ramp were gone.
The only thing I could presume is that the ramp got tangled up in the deer's legs as it was being dragged off the back end of my truck. I needed that ramp to be able to perform my job.
But that meant going back down the road to where the wolfman might be lurking.
When I got back to the spot, there was not a deer, there was not an ATV ramp, and there wasn't a furry creature alongside the road or in the road.
How could the creature manage to carry off a carcass and a heavy ramp? Steve Kruger was beginning to consider supernatural explanations.
To realize that there was a creature like that out there, that aggressive and that willing to get close to people, frightened me.
Green eyes glow. The creature snarls. He gets back in his truck.
Steve reported the incident to the sheriff. Patrols dispatched to the site found no clues about the monster, no trace of the heavy ATV ramp.
It was embarrassing at first. It got worse the next day. News reports started coming out and it became, over the next week, a complete circus. The story spread like wildfire. It went on national news, and the people closer to home who know me knew this wasn't something that I made up.
Despite anyone else's reaction, Steve knows what he saw.
The people that don't believe me, I tell them to go pound sand. I saw what I saw. If they don't believe me, it does not bother me one bit. The creature that I saw is real. It was there, it was real, it was a physical something that I could not recognize that took the deer out of back into my truck.
Steve Kruger. Mist rises up over a forest.
Wisconsin isn't the only upper Midwest state where wolf and monsters are seen. An hour north of Detroit, the quaint town of Holly has long attracted visitors to its Christmas-themed festivals. In recent years, it's the surrounding woods that's attracting attention.
And growing up here in Michigan, I have heard mythological stories about the man-dog of Holly or the dog man of Holly, never realizing that it would be a reality or that it truly existed.
Well, Holly's, kind of an odd place. It's just one of those places that has a very remote area to it. And, that's why there are creatures lurking out there.
Caption, Michigan, Dogman.
Within these woods, there are rumors about a monster, a creature that sometimes runs on 4 legs, sometimes stands on 2. A bizarre manimal, part man, part mutt, Dogman.
The Dogman and Beast of Bray Road seem to be 2 different creatures. The Beast of Bray Road appears much bigger and seems to be more of your traditional werewolf, whereas the Dogman has a supernatural reputation with it as well, that it's more of a spirit-based creature. They have the ability to do you harm outside of just clawing and slashing at you. It's not flesh and blood. You couldn't kill it like you could possibly the Beast of Bray Road.
We do know of over 100 Dogman sightings, and it is a widespread phenomenon, not just in Michigan, all across the United States and actually all across the world. There have been sightings of Dogman-like creatures in Argentina, in France, so this is not just an American phenomenon.
The idea of a canine-human hybrid is very old. The ancient Egyptians saw Anubis, their god of the underworld, as a jackal-headed man. In rural Michigan, many have heard the Dogman legend. One local felt it breathing down his neck and barely survived to tell the tale. Meet Jeff Cornelius. He's a creature of the night himself. Jeff is a repo man, working the night shift, reclaiming cars from deadbeat buyers. It's a job that can take you down desolate back roads with no sign of anything friendly for miles.
I've always felt comfortable in the woods. I'm not really scared of driving alone at night, It's how I've always done my work.
Jeff's not really a kind of a scaredy cat guy, He's kind of a big burly dude. He's gonna take you out or he's gonna die trying.
The only thing Jeff worries about is a delinquent car owner with a loaded .45. It was past midnight on a cold autumn night in 2005. Jeff was on the outskirts of Holly, Michigan, looking for a Cadillac. Some slacker's time had run out.
There was a bright moon out that night. You could see really well. Where I was looking for the vehicle, it's very remote. When I turned on the driveway, it was probably 200 to 300 yards. It was really creepy setting. It was late at night, the moon was out, all the crickets and stuff. The house had bars on it, which, it was just odd to me. It kind of freaked me out.
Reenactment. Jeff gets out of his vehicle, shining a torch on a graffiti-covered building.
So I got out to look in the window. I had my flashlight and I was looking inside the building. And I heard something snapping.
When the job suddenly goes south, Jeff doesn't usually panic. Not this time.
When I think of that night, I think of the scariest thing I ever saw.
Jeff's eyes widen as a creature snarls at him. Caption: Monsters and Mysteries.